going back, not gonna buy into all that. Hey, hey, ain't gonna hide, gonna let all the fears slide. Got mother nature, it's on my side. Got all of the loving growing inside.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new now. I'm here with Joel Schafer of Perceiver. We've just decided over the last few minutes that this could be a four-part discussion as we're going to dive into dreaming our destiny with intent and power. Seemed to me that this would be something huge to cover. Maybe could take us a lifetime, but we'll see if we can get it in four sections. Hey, Joel, how's it going?
Good, Lorenzo. How are you, brother?
Good, good, good. Yeah, I've been on the road for about 6 weeks now, so feeling like a warrior journeyman. So a perfect time to discuss this perfect topic for us.
Cool. What takes you on the road? What you
Well,
live in multiple places? Japan?
yeah, I went from Japan to Vancouver, went to Toronto to visit my folks, and I went to Florida. We did a practical evolution for life event there, a live event with Campbell, whom I think you
Okay.
met recently. And then I went to Tennessee
Yeah.
to work with Dr. Brent Davis, full flower spectrum essences. Maybe we'll bring him on for a chat. Some really interesting discoveries he's made over the last 30 years. And then back to Vancouver now
Good.
to visit with some friends, and then back. No planes for 4 years, and then I've been on 15 planes over the last few weeks. Guess that's the way life goes sometimes.
Oh wow, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, you're little closer. Yeah. I'm in Montana now and just got back from some traveling and yeah, it's been really enjoying being here. I'm in the mountains in a powerful spot, so I'm experiencing a totally different shift of my reality and part of my dream and my intent is to continue to find I'm a renter, so I'll probably get kicked out of here, but I'm always looking for places like this, so it's a really powerful time for me to be in this kind of magical land.
Well, I understand. I mean, it's why I went to Tennessee. I was in the mountains outside. Well, an hour and 15 minutes, I think, west of Nashville, and it was amazing. Totally in the mountains, not even a Wi-Fi signal or a phone signal, and the
Yeah.
difference in the energy and my dreaming and my feelings was really huge. And that's why I wanted to cover this topic. And I might go through Montana like in the spring. I'm going back to Tennessee. And it's why I want to introduce you perhaps
Nice.
to Dr. Davis. Who knows? Maybe we'll end up there together doing some dreaming in the mountains. It could be. I did print for about 15 years, the new Agora, and I thought it was time, to get off my behind instead of meeting people virtually to kind of start putting that community together, seeing people face to face. And it's been a hugely wonderful experience doing that. Very empowering.
Oh, cool, man. Good to hear. Yeah, I'm kind of in this same boat. I've been very private, and all of a sudden I'm meeting all these people, and I'm not only online but in person, and starting to have experiences outside of what I'm used to, and it's really divine timing. And then as that happens, there's all these other people coming in from different connections and introductions, and it takes some getting used to a little bit. It's definitely a different mood, but really it feels all divine and guided, and I'm glad that it's happening. So it's really
It's,
cool.
it's very interesting. I found a lot of people that do the kind of work that we've done, the inner work, you could say the dreaming work, are usually shy-ish people, not social by definition of being, a Toltec. You're really dismissing the social aspect of your life. And so you find that to be a little uncomfortable at first, but also when you start to meet the right people, I guess if you're putting a warrior party together, so to speak, even if it's an abstract one, and then it starts to feel, beyond
Mm.
comfortable, something you can't even describe until you're actually living in the experience because it has nothing to do with your thought process. It's like you meet someone, you go, well, that was fascinating. I didn't know that was going to happen, or I didn't know I would get this
Yeah.
bit of information. And, it comes back to the topic of dreaming our destiny in that, for so long I've been considering and thinking and writing and reading, same as you, doing lots of videos, 150 before I went on the road. And I had a strong feeling it's time, to
Wow.
take that leap and to go into my unknown anyways, and to see where that was going to take me, to
Mm.
literally get off my behind, which I think a lot of people maybe get stuck. If you want to change your life, you have to change your life. And I figure it's part of
Yeah.
dreaming your destiny is the actions that are involved therein.
Mm. Absolutely, brother. I'm going through that right now, where I have to really decide how I'm going to generate income and I've moved from where it's easy to make a lot of money to a place where it's a whole new set of challenges and a different type of people. And so, I'm wanting to come out of the construction world and really start mentoring full time and start, a different life, a different career. And it's confronting, it's like, I don't want to promote myself. I want it to all happen naturally. But at the same time, like, just by putting myself out there, I've already promoted myself. And it's just a matter of getting over those ideals of how it's supposed to look, or maybe, but so I go to start to intend things, and then I'm very sensitive to the feeling around it. And so, there's some blocks, but there's also some listening that's happening. And so the timing, it's a thing, but I'm starting, because you're asking this, it's appropriate. Everyone in my life's coming to me and saying, so Joel, what are you going to do now? And, how are you going to share your art, right? Because we're all artists in different ways. And some of us produce music, and some of us, just by speaking, it can be a type of art, right? So starting to get invitations to collaborate and do different things. And I spent a lot of my life really turning down a lot of social stuff because it just didn't feel appropriate. And then by doing that, I've been rewarded with really incredible people that I did feel called to spend time with. And so having healthy boundaries, I think, is one of the stages that people don't know about. They just kind of accept every invitation, and they're just, don't spend a lot of time really listening to the aloneness part that wants to sort of be cultivated. And so, but it's still a thing. Like, every time I go to make a decision, I'm a little torn. I love my alone time, and then I also really enjoy, these experiences with others. And but yeah, ultimately being in a really raw place and being open to what the future looks like. And I've been told in the past how incredible things are going to be for me, and that I really trust the feeling that came in, and I have been following that feeling for a long time. But it doesn't explain how it happens. It doesn't show you the details. It just gives you this incredible sort of feeling. And so I've been really thankful that's happened, because there was a time where I didn't trust. I was in a very kind of scared, nervous system dysregulation place in my life, and construction was really physically hurt. Like, I was getting injured. I was in a lot of dysfunction, and I could barely cover the bills for my family, and my wife had a lot of health issues, and so I was carrying a lot of weight in many ways. And so it's been a massive revolution to be able to transition from that dreaming to being able to sort of set up my life in a totally different way. And Toltecs refer to, that you want to get your foundation in order prior to attempting to do all this advanced dreaming work. And so the first lesson in dreaming is to dream your life here. And then from there. And so I haven't really done that. I kind of did all the dreaming in cults and crazy situations, and there was no foundation at all. So I'm kind of going backwards, and now I'm getting to more of the foundational part, which is appropriate to what you're talking about, is our destiny, or our the life that we're here to experience within the physical, and how that can be really magical and harmonious. And I think as that gets more clear and guided, and less more stable and less unstable, then there becomes an opportunity to ground even more than ever. And therefore my dreaming will feel that much more safe, and I'll feel more comfortable with these deeper shifts of the assemblage point, because it can be quite intense to advance on the dreaming path, right? And it's like if you had a high fever and you realize that silence could swallow you, and people panic when they start to have access to that deep drop, and I do as well. And so I'm really looking forward to creating a life that allows me to feel for all that to just happen more naturally, and less of me trying to do it. And so as I that's my instinct is that rather than attempt to try this stuff anymore, just allowing silence and harmonious life living to basically unlock that door naturally. So even just sun gazing, I don't do it because I'm trying, I do it because I enjoy it. And then these things start to happen. So I don't have to sort of follow the Castaneda system of doing all these things to get to where I want to go. I'm following my own intuition, and it naturally just leads to all these incredible experiences. And so I'm in a really thankful place. And I think gratitude is a big part of manifesting a dream that, that we're all called to, because we all have a longing, we all have a desire to experience certain things. And for Toltecs, it's about being what type of mood, the mood that you're in. Are you going to be in a shitty mood your whole life? You're going to, have a mood that's really, appreciative and jovial and excited for your experiences. And yeah.
No, I hear
What
you.
about your,
Well, I've been the same way. When I discovered the Toltec path, I went way out. You want to go to the crazy dreaming, you want to go to the crazy experiences. I went to live in Mexico for 3 years, but same in some ways as you. I didn't really ground myself in understanding my own roots. My own past, my own ancestors. The recapitulation, so to speak.
yeah,
And so I spent a long time, for 12 years when we did the New Agora in print with a few people kind of sharing the big outside picture, how to have a good community, how to eat well food, how to breathe well, how to dream well, how to drink well, how to be in good relationships. And I think my own roots, I left fallow, right? I didn't do a deep enough recapitulation, right, to ground myself and to understand myself. And, the viral shenanigans over the
yeah,
last 4 years, I was kind of in a small house isolated in Japan. And so I got to do my own inner, like I barely spoke English other than this way, like, on a daily basis. So I got to become very quiet. And I did the same thing as you. I sat there and I went, what do I need? What do I want to dream? How am I directing it with my thoughts? Like I still was kind of pushing an agenda, my own agenda. This is what freedom looks like. This is what being abundant looks like, and I had to get to where you went to, which is interesting that we're talking now, is to kind of just take a leap 6 weeks ago. I decided, just to go on this trip
yep,
and to see what, like we did a practical evolution for life event with Campbell from Autodidactic. And, we didn't have a lot of people and it wasn't a moneymaker for sure. In fact, we probably lost some money doing it, but my gut still said, go out,
yep,
do this event, see what's going to happen. And we ended up meeting people and getting onto some beautiful land and then going to some other land in Tennessee. And maybe I found my next step because I want to go back there in the spring, as I mentioned to you before we got on. And now you and I are talking, and I've been through Montana. It's a beautiful
yeah,
part of the world. One of my favorite actually. And it seems
yeah,
like you've discovered is just to throw, your expectations out the window and to allow the world, it's a very big difference, isn't it? Like getting something in your head and then getting it in your body. Like even the Castaneda stuff, you put this
hmm,
idea up here, and then one day you throw it away, and then you go, wait a minute, the unknown is the unknown. The unexpected is like it really starts to hit you that you can't think about what's coming because it hasn't happened yet in your experience. You kind of have to
yeah,
trust, as you said, when you go into that deep hole of silence, that you're just brave enough and strong
hmm,
enough and ready to accept the challenges that are going to come up and face them with humor. Usually I'm finding is the best way to do it.
hmm. Yeah, well said, brother. Yeah, it feels incredible to be open and listening and building the resources and starting to tap into new feelings around what's possible
Yes.
and coming out of the old story and being willing to speak a new one. And there are leaps of faith. There are this to people in my life, it looks reckless that I moved my family, out here without clear direction, right? And it is on some level. There's elements of it that are, you know, not fully thought out, and I could have done this very differently. But um, ultimately, my freedom is in that I'm not afraid to do whatever it takes.
Mm.
I love work. I'm not running away from something, right? So however this unfolds, if I end up just being a carpenter the rest of my life, wonderful. Like it's all good. But by giving myself but if I don't, like anybody, a lot of people can do carpentry, but not everybody can offer what I'm offering. Right. So I'm if you don't follow they say if you don't use your medicine, it will turn on you. And I don't buy into that necessarily, but that concept is, if you're given a gift and you just sort of poo-poo it and squash it and just keep doing the things that, feel safe and secure this illusion of security, right? Which is this having this ability to pay for things. And so a lot of people discover their resources wings are really kind of rock bottom, and they didn't realize that they were capable to discover a window of opportunity and shift their reality. So it is, you never know what type of leap of faith you'll be guided to take, and just being open to, just all these different connections that are coming in, and just listening to what, is the next step. And I am going to be writing, and I'm looking forward to sharing my stories, in that respect, in that particular way. And I'm just starting to connect with some bigger names too on these social media things, where I'm like, all of a sudden there's David Icke is in the space, and then there's all these people, and it's just, I have access if I want to go and start talking to all these people. And part of that's kind of like, whoa, this feels really intense. Like there's so much energy focused on these people. And so I'm not, necessarily interested. It doesn't, people that have a lot of following doesn't make them more knowledgeable just because they've been doing it for longer. In fact, I often see that they're compromising because they don't want to get kicked out of the club a little bit. And these things have a way of keeping us from being able to be really authentic and honest, because all of a sudden there's this other person there. And if you speak your truth that would dismantle theirs, then there'd be this conflict. So everybody sort of tiptoes around certain subjects. And so it's just all crazy to watch. And, but these are people that have found a way to make a living by speaking or by writing or by sharing. And so just being in that presence and having conversations with them, I can use the art of stalking in order to have, kind of like what they're doing, right? They're tiptoeing, they're being, appropriately careful. So there's different ways of looking at it as to what, how these relationships can grow, and different types of people that we can start to talk to. And I think it'll be valuable for people like us who have the Castaneda perspective. And I'm noticing that more and more people are starting to listen to these Toltec concepts on a deeper level. It's resonating. There's less of a kind of a overglaze that happens, because most people, it's very confronting if you start to offer answers to their questions that Toltecs have had the courage to answer. They're saying that, no, that's not, reincarnation is not what you think it is. They've had understandings that would kind of destroy a lot of the common themes in the New Age movement, or in even the religious kind of dungeon programming that's, exists within our entire structure. So I've just been sort of paying attention to this stuff and having good talks with people about it. And the Archaics event was really amazing, because I just got to meet so many people in San Diego, and just have real conversations in person, and there's a lot of energy there. It was just a real opportunity to sort of get to know what different people's focus is, and it was such a variety, which I really enjoyed.
I like your term dungeon programming. It takes it more out of, people saying being stuck in the matrix, and then you ask them what that means and they can't even answer you. Or, they want to get over their own limitations, and you ask them what that means, and they really can't answer you. Or they want their destiny or their abundance. I'm just going to sit here and intend abundance. You go, well, that's not really enough, right? Because what is abundance? What does it mean? When you start asking people their definitions, like, what do you mean by that? I found a lot of, like you say, blowback too. So, I've had to instead of what I've learned, as you did, is instead of pushing your perspective, which is just your perspective, like I could be wrong for everyone else except myself, obviously. Like everyone's dream is everyone's dream, and who knows what they need and what they don't need. I don't know what anyone needs in their life. I've had to learn that the hard way. But allowing, as you've said, meeting other people, which may have, let's say, large audiences or a different perspective or something you haven't considered before, and without dismissing it and seeing where that could fit in, as you move forward, it gives you the opportunity, like you've noticed, to meet other people. And, same to you now is, my world is opening up. I'm getting to meet other people. I'm getting to meet, people that maybe have a lot of money, but don't have a lot of heart going yet, let's say, or people that have a lot of heart, but don't have a lot of desires for destination. Or maybe you have carpentry skills and they have, as Dr. Brent Davis, I'll give him a plug for FlorAlive. For 30 years, he's been discovering full flower essences. And I was a little skeptical, as I am on all healing, I guess homeopathic, but, having decided to drop my judgments and go there and try them and see some of the healings that happened with my wife, even, and then some other people, I'm going, well, maybe there's something here. I mean, I've always been one who loved flowers, right? I've always listened and talked and smelled them. That's just been my hobby since I've been 14. And, to see that, like you said, now to trust that maybe you can move forward in your abundance working with flowers, let's say, or you can move forward in your abundance, sharing what your knowledge, and just allow, but it's not comfortable, right? You got to go, you got to eat in your hotel room, you got to stay this, you got to eat tuna sandwiches and in the airports for a few days. And, there's all kinds of challenge being pat down by TSA when they freaked out when I didn't want to go through their x-ray machine once, and just, being calm when this, 500-pound guy is yelling at me that I have to, and I'm going, no, I don't, and this little lady eventually comes up and goes, leave him alone. He doesn't. And, and then I watched, my wife kind of sneak by at the time. She took very, very well. She learned stalking. And when they were like kind of yelling at me, she just kind of, I looked behind, she wasn't there. And I looked over and she was already through security waving at me. And I'm going, wow, that was amazing. So you get to see the magic and I stood up, like, I'm only 5'8". This guy was like 6'6", 3 times my weight probably. But then a little lady came and said, stop that. You're not allowed to do that to the fellow, leave him alone. So you get to see spirit in action. But like you said, of course it's terrifying. Of course it's stressful. Of course, there's death at the center, as the Toltecs say, like everything real. People don't realize what that means until you're actually living, realizing maybe your life isn't going on beyond this moment. I mean, I would say, we're talking about dreaming our destiny, and you have to let something die. And what does that feel like? It feels like something is dying. It's not, it's not an emotional, your body starts to go, holy, I could be dead here, but then you start laughing anyways. And then that's when spirit seems to come in and go, don't worry about it. It's all right. Here, you get your pass, It's very, very interesting that way.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you for sharing that. So the term dungeon programming comes from Jason Bashir's. Okay. And so I just wanted to clarify that. And it's really appropriate, I think. And what you're talking about, that programming, like during the 2020, I was going to the grocery stores in Seattle every day. I was getting confronted every step of the way because I wasn't going to do any of it. And I just stayed in my truth and I dreamt my reality forward. And I knew what would happen. I knew eventually I would get what I needed, but it was going to require a lot of patience and getting yelled at and spit on and the whole thing. And it was a lot to, I had people really like want to hurt me that were just separate bystanders just for not going along, like let alone the security and the cops and all that. But then I had people that like really, it's such a disturbing thing. Freedom is really terrifying to people that you can stay in your own personal reality and not take on everybody's mass formation psychosis, basically. And I think that really prepared me and taught me about, being sovereign and being able to insulate myself from, these projections and not really let it, I've always been good at this. It's always just water off the duck's back. I don't get offended. And that didn't happen overnight, but I learned through being in construction to just observe and really, it's kind of like a psychedelic thing. If you're on mushrooms while someone's yelling at you, it can be terrible, or you can be like really fascinating because you see all this energy coming at you. You can feel all this, you can see their the more inner workings of what's going on within their being. And so that's why shamans or Toltecs really seek out petty tyrants, as a means to get to know where they're at. How, if, am I able to keep my center while this person attempts to try to, take me out of my center? And because that's how they can get energy from the situation. And it's very unconscious maybe, but I've gotten jobs where the very powerful men notice my freedom, and so they really don't like it.
Yep.
And so they really come after me. They try to expose me because I'm not stressed out. And that doesn't make sense to them. How can you be doing your job if you're not stressed out? Right. And so they just like always come to investigate. And so I run these projects, I run big jobs, and so they come in and they try to like find out where I'm not doing the right thing. And in doing that, it's like spirit shows me how to set the whole scene up. And they end up coming after me so much that they expose their ego, and they end up getting fired. And it's crazy to watch, because these are like the presidents of massive companies, and just little me, is here. And all of a sudden, because of some weird situation, it frees up the energy for the whole company. Everyone's like, oh God, thank God that happened. And so it's like sometimes I get sent into these situations. So part of me coming out of that industry is there's kind of I'm kind of going to miss it if I don't get to do that kind of stuff, because there's a lot of intensity and a lot of lessons that come in the matrix. Like, I don't believe we should be running from it. I think we want to go into it and get to know the airport scene, and get to know, like be around all these masked people and just shine bright and let people see your freedom and your fearlessness, because it rubs off. Other people see that and inspires them to be courageous. And I just think when you're not stressed at work, other people see that, and they want that for themselves too. And so it can be a really inspiring thing for others. And so sometimes we're called to go into situations where it's not really about the job or the money. It's about people and things like this. So I'm a big advocate for letting spirit guide, and being able to, rather, like everyone's like, how am I going to manifest my reality? And I'm like, well, I'm working on listening as much as I can, because I believe that it will be continually presented, that invitations and doors will open, and it's just whether or not you feel called to say yes or no. And so if your cup is overflowing because you're really taking, you're having a really amazing life, then things start to happen naturally without us having to necessarily pick the thing that we're going to make happen. And so I always say, be careful what you're going to ask for, because you're going to get it. You may not realize what comes from getting the thing that you wanted. There may be this other aspect that you hadn't thought about. And so I really believe in gratitude, and if I'm going to ask for anything, I keep it really simple. I ask for joy. And then events in my life continue to happen that allows me to experience lots of joy. And I think that simplicity, getting simple and coming out of complexity, is where a lot of stress is relieved and the nervous system can regulate, because we're quite complex in our thinking and the way in which we attempt to understand or control our reality. And so there's a lot of feminine and masculine with that, like, and getting to know both sides of yourself, and where there's unconscious masculine, or holes in your masculine, or holes in your feminine. We learn from the world. We learn through our experience where we're still kind of have undealt with aspects of ourself, and the world reflects that to us. And it's an opportunity to do the shadow work. And I don't believe it ever ends. I believe we will always be facing areas of our being that we just kind of overlooked, or it wasn't the appropriate timing for us to face those parts of ourselves. And so being in partnership with somebody who's really also going through that, and then attempting to work together and and learn from each other and be willing to ask for help when it's really difficult. A lot of people cut things off and just, oh, this didn't work, so I'm going to go on and find another relationship, or I'm going to get a different job. I'm going to do this now because that didn't work, but it did work. It was offering you this incredible opportunity to get to know yourself. And that's this whole thing is about, I think, is self realization, and that the universe is seeking to know itself through us, that we are probes, extensions of the energetic, emanations of the dark sea of awareness, and that our experiences are valuable to the whole. And if we start forging new neural pathways and breaking patterns and moving in different, experiencing life in a different way, then there's this return on investment where, because you have the courage to do that, there's an energy lent to you for more. And so that's where I think the magic happens, is in that guidance.
Yeah, I would agree. In some ways, the title of this video, Dreaming Our Destiny, was a bit of a trick on words on purpose, in that, I know I am my destiny. You are your destiny. And we've been discussing that since the beginning of this video. How you get to your destiny is being honest with yourself and through yourself, because you are creating your reality. I would think, I would feel. I mean, obviously you're doing it with spirit, and you're doing it with the unknown, and you don't know where. Maybe your higher self, maybe your double, as the Toltecs say, and that's in some ways, I think people fighting to get out of the matrix, or fighting to get out of this world, like you said, or fighting to leave a country, or fighting to leave a relationship. They're just fighting themselves, right? And that's why they end up keeping themselves in that dungeon, or in their own, nonsense, or their own fears, because, as you've said, every experience you've asked for, no matter how horrible it seems in the moment, and it allows you to overcome whatever blocks and energy you have at the moment, to, like you said, so that more energy can come in that you didn't even know you were missing until you get it. Like 1 second later, you're going, where's that light coming from? Where's this? Oh yeah, now I remember what it was like when I was 5 and I was skipping down the street and my imagination was working. It's finally, coming back into a part of my body that was locked up through past traumas or experiences or whatever fears you had.
Absolutely, brother. Yeah, when we are able to, rather than run away from an obstacle, but actually face it, and we learn, we gain resource and skill sets and tools that are valuable, and then then you have faced an aspect of yourself that was uncomfortable, and now it becomes comfortable. And so the unknown becomes the known, right? And so a lot of people want to go do all these meditations for 20 days and all these extreme things in order to have these experiences that will enlighten them, right? But I really think that it's not that. It doesn't require that at all. And our ability to not take things so seriously, and to just let things be as they are. There's a simplicity that occurs within your being that reveals things right in front of you at all points. So the world's always going to be teaching us. Where if I were to walk out this house today with $100 in my wallet and just keep walking and not come back until a magical event occurred, it will happen. I will be okay. It's cold as hell in Montana, but I will get through that. I'll figure out how to survive the night. And then the next day, somebody will come into my life, or, it doesn't matter what direction I go. It's like a simulation, and it provides opportunities if you put yourself in it. It's like windows of opportunity are always going to present themselves. But if you have an idea of how it's supposed to look, then you might miss it. Somebody might be giving you the most incredible opportunity, and you just turn it down because you think that they look unkept, or they have some crazy energy or something, right? So a lot of people miss out. They have no idea how all these characters, that's why I don't think these are NPCs. I think everyone is a magical being. Some of them are from other worlds and they're pretending to be like us, and that's even more magical to me. But then, everything is an opportunity. and everyone on some level has, can be reached in the heart. And even if they're really in a lot of pain and they're and so sometimes you get put in situations that just completely free you up because they get freed up. There's a lot of support the universe brings in when you're able to help somebody, right? So a lot of people get really depressed and they're like, what can I do to come out of depression? Sometimes if you can get yourself up and out and go help somebody who's worse off than you, it can completely revolutionize your reality, right? So I just think there's opportunity everywhere we look and everything we do, and this is a dream basically. It's a long one. We spend a lot of time in it, but when we realize that it's just a dream and everything's going to be okay, ultimately, right? And I've had friends leave this world and visit me from the other side, and that's their message: is it's okay. It's okay. Like, just enjoy your life. Like, because a lot of us just don't know how to accept that okayness. So yeah, there's just I think it can get that simple, and then from that simplicity, because you've regulated your nervous system through accepting things as they are, right? And some of the Toltec dreamers say you've already arrived. Everything that's going to happen has actually already happened, right? And we're like living it out in a linear way as if it's hasn't already happened. But your future self, if you can tap into it, it's telling you, hey, you're good. It's kind of like a pat on the back. You don't have to stress or worry. And the more we can receive that trust, the more personal power. Like, so shamans say that it's not about how much personal power you have, it's how much you trust it. Right. So the more you really move into a place of trust that everything's going to work, the more doors will open, and you can even speak those words into your reality. Trust, freedom, joy, like we can choose what our world is just by where our attention is placed.
The old dreamer in the dreamed. You figure out you're being dreamed. So, something else is already, something else is already dreaming you. That's already like you said, already there. So you just kind of allow that to come through and you follow through on it. And, that's why I don't like the word exception, but a lot of people that said they're just NPCs, I can ignore them. They're just NPCs. I think, you're missing the point. Like what is coming to your face that you want to ignore? Maybe they're being horrible. Maybe they're being mean. Maybe they're being master yelling, or maybe they've got 87, jabs or whatever. But they're trying to tell you something, right? You brought them into your life, right? You brought them into the coffee shop. You brought them into your face if they're arguing or yelling at you or spitting at you or whatever. And it's not just, they're an NPC, doesn't matter. It's like, I had to see with the fellow in the airport how I still had a lot of anger in me, right? Because as you said, I was watching my own anger, but then I realized if I get angry, I'd be in trouble, right? At that moment you go, well, you're going to meet him on his anger, that's not going to work out well. You can just tell, at that moment you have to kind of relax into the moment and face the anger with some calmness, as you said, in your nervous system. And you were right, the humor comes, you come out the other side and you're practically skipping with energy and laughing. You're going, well, that was crazy. But look, here I am and nothing happened. And wasn't that interesting? Just a bunch of loud noises coming at me from someone that looked bigger than me. But you allowed to, like you said, trust your personal power, and literally in the case in the airport there, moved to the other side. So I think it was my double showing me what it's like to cross over, right? The guardian at the gate, quite literally, with the anger and the power, and the tasers, whatever they have, whatever they're holding in their crazy pockets, at those places. And in the end, a little person goes, get out of his way. And, that's kind of spiritual, and you doesn't really mean anything, right? You just got to kind of face your own fears, and then you get to pass. And it's a wonderful experience that I can take forward in my life now, with every other challenges that they come every day. Like there's no easy path being a Toltec. You don't wake up one day and go, oh, I'm free, I'm a Nagwal, I'm a warrior, and I'm living on the mountain, with magical shoes and and glowing apples in my pocket. It just never seems to work out that way. It's beautiful, but it's always bloody and hard and horrible and challenging and wonderful at the same, ultimately nurturing. Isn't that what the Toltecs say? And ultimately challenging at once. That seems to be this path.
Yeah, you learn to balance as Wamatu said, um, this is a world of terror and beauty.
Yeah.
And you learn to be, the beauty balances the terror.
Mm.
And so the more open you become, the more access you have to the beauty, but you're also accessing the unconsciousness.
Mm.
You're becoming aware of the situation with the flyers. You're starting to see things outside of the mind. And it can be very devastating to actually have an encounter with these things you've learned about in an actual way.
Yes.
And to become, that's why shamans say you actually have to become indifferent. You have to be detached in order to observe. And it makes sense. You have to suspend judgment, not just with others, but for the self. Right. And that way you can get to know where you're at with your shadow and what is unresolved within your being. The hungry ghost. A lot of us have a sexual or hungry ghost is associated with physical desire for physical connection with other.
Mm.
And we can can be a really tricky thing as that energy builds, and what you do with how creative you become with that energy, or it can overwhelm you, and it can lead to like all these kind of what people consider dark, shadowy aspects of life. But it's just, this is a challenge, man. It's, as you build energy, it's not like, oh, okay, great, I have all this energy, so everything's like you said. It actually leads to more and more unique, difficult, really specific challenges that come with that type of growth, because you're moving away from, like, the flyers are basically layered. There's the initial programming, and most people just accept that programming, and it's easy to run the world because that program just sort of is on an autopilot. But when you come out of that, you advance to a different level of programming. So now the programming is going to attempt to challenge you in other ways, or maybe outmaneuver you, or think of a way to get you to think that you're special, or so all these different levels. And eventually, yeah, even if you were to free yourself from one particular type of energetically challenged predator type energy, there's just more, it supposedly, right? So it's just going to, the joy and the exhilaration and the intensity of the challenge becomes where you find your path of heart. It's not something that, you can, a lot of people just say, oh, I'm on a path of heart. But there comes a point where you're using that path of heart as a means to become conscious of what we really are. And that is not a small task. That's a very powerful undertaking. And it requires a lifetime of impeccability to even really be able to catch a glimpse of what the Toltecs refer to as far as getting access to the dark sea of awareness, and being in communication directly, or having a magical, like Carlos had a magical coyote come and talk to him in English and Spanish, or Don Juan had a magical deer come, just a glowing orb of light that, not all people are the same, and not all animals are the same. There's very special and magical opportunities awaiting us. And, this is why people vision quest. They go for 4 days and 4 nights without food and water in order to have a relationship to this type of communication that exists, that is not linear, that isn't based on, what would be typical, right? So there's just so many opportunities awaiting humanity as this knowledge becomes more accessible, and people start becoming interested in unlocking what's, coming out of story, and just being, so that they can experience, because story is drama, right? Story, what we tell ourselves, is what keeps us inside of a limited construct. And so that's why silence becomes so key, because through silence, one can just observe rather than think. And then things that seem so guarded or mysterious actually just become accessible. And you get hooked to that dreaming attention. You start desiring that depth of connection through your silence. And it's so much joy it can happen, that it can, for me, all the joy kicks in, and then it's like all this sadness comes with it. It's
It's true.
like
Yeah. I've noticed that.
that's that's healing, right? It's joy is so healing that you release what pain you've been carrying, and you didn't even know it was there. Like it comes in waves, right? So I work with really powerful people that help and hold space for me to feel my feelings, to
Mm.
really feel them, to really allow the stuff that I override and don't tap into. But when there's space held for it, and somebody's really conscious and has done this work, and they hold space for you, it's incredible. It's so simple.
It
They don't
is.
even have to really ask anything. I mean, just little prompts, and all of a sudden, because they're so powerful and have done this,
Mm.
this is incredible. You just feel this, like, which can happen. You don't need people necessarily, but why not? If there's somebody available that can, hold space, like what an investment in yourself, right? And there'll be resistance to that.
Mm.
And that's part of getting to know where you're at, and why am I resisting that? Oh, well, that would cost money.
Mm.
Yeah, but it would change your life, right? Like this
Right.
little
Right.
investment in yourself, and people spend their whole life avoiding it. Oh no, I'm not ready, and that's okay. But that's getting to understand what that pressure is to keep you from taking that step. And that's where you kind of encounter this. Oh yeah, there's when you go to recapitulate, there's great pressure to not do it. It's
100%.
the program is sending a fear message because it's afraid of you being free because you're a source of food. And it's essentially like, oh shit, I better, it's actually afraid of being caught because we don't really bring the consciousness to this. So when it comes to dreams and being able to dream your destiny forward, this is everything is right here. There
Mm.
is no past or future. It's purely being able to drop into the eternal now. And then time is no longer a construct in that moment. You are timeless. You are in a situation that completely is revealing everything all at once. But that doesn't happen to most people until they die.
Mm.
And so I want to hold space for people to, that's my gift, is to now what my teachers have done for me, I'm doing that for people, and it's really incredible, and it's a path of heart,
It is.
right? So as we continue to discover our capacity and our resource, um yeah, I'll lead, like what happened to you in the airport, absolutely perfect example. And you did cross a threshold, and you did, face a tyrant, and whatever got stirred up, that's good for you. That's good to know where you're at with your anger. And there are times in life where you're going to want to use your rage and anger and say, hey, don't fuck with that person. Like,
Mm.
step in, and you'll be called to use,
Mm.
your anger is not something to avoid. A lot of spiritual people are like, oh, well, I
No.
don't, I don't let anger in. And I'm like, oh, man, you're fucking ticking time bomb, bro. Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to
It's
feel
coming
that
next
shit,
time. Yeah.
like you're just putting it off. So yeah, I'm so glad you had that, because it stirs all the shit up, and helps us know what we're capable of. And then I'm the same way in situations like that. I've become pretty fearless, and I say what needs to be said to these people when they, and it doesn't, it's not like I back down, and I actually, step into it. And as Juan Matu said, everybody's shaking in their boots. Everybody's
Mm.
scared.
Yep.
Some people have an ego that makes it look like they're not,
Mm.
but it's not that hard to find, to get them to realize where they're at too, right? So this, we will end up thanking these people probably more than, our teachers in the future, when we realize what an incredible gift these tyrants are giving us. And to me, that's where you flip the script on this whole thing. So all these people, these truthers that are going to go out and save the world and catch the tyrants and all the
Yeah.
bad guys, like, you're just asking for trouble, man. Like,
Yep. Yep. I
you
agree.
can make
Yeah.
fun of them and have fun with your life, and get them to expose themselves. But if you try to go on the front line and battle tyrants, like, they rule this world. This is their, they're overseeing this. So it's not about that. It's about what Juan Matus did. He went and he faced the petty tyrant, having built all of those skill sets within the art of stalking, and he knew exactly what to do. It like played out as he was shown it would. And that's what happened to me at work. It was like a really beautiful play that was where I knew the scene ahead of time,
Mm.
just barely. I just barely understood what was about to happen. And there's a real moment there when you realize that spirit's working with you on that level, and that you're in that psychic realm. It's really, the future has already happened. And so as you get to know it more, and you have more deja vu, more dreams that end up happening in real life, you start to really understand that we are not linear at all, but we're experiencing ourselves in a linear fashion.
You're already watching it happen, which is very interesting. I find, or someone told me once that, in order, when I kept saying I was going to use my intuition to go through life, and they said, well, unless you do a full recapitulation first, you can never really access your intuition, because you're mixing it up with all kinds of things. Because intuition is a clarity, I guess, with your double. I would say that's what intuition is, in my opinion. And in order to clear that link, you have to clear your link. There's no two ways about it. Like you said, so when the challenges come, if you run away from them, or you change relationships or jobs, or you just say it's someone else's fault, they're an NPC, you're missing the opportunity to go into a living recapitulation. I mean, there's more than one way. You don't have to sit in a cave and do a list, which I've done, or build a box, which I've also done years ago. I did all that in my 30s, and I'm delighted that I've had that experience. But also, to do the living recapitulation is way more intense, powerful, and immediate when you get that chance to face yourself in the now and get the energy back right away, like you said, and then to jump forward into the realization that life's not really linear, and if you're not going to die in the moment, you can face whatever fears are sitting in front of you, because it gives you that opportunity to be, like you said, fearless, even though also, as you just said, everyone's afraid. Everyone's shaking with challenge when it comes to them. But, it takes a warrior to kind of go, whatever. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. To be with your fear. Yeah. You can still function, and we're just so much more capable than we realize. And unfortunately, most people spend their lives avoiding situations that would really trigger their fear, and they don't get to know it, and getting to know your fear is how you get to know the program. Like, what's happening here? Like, why did we, and yeah. So I have met very fearless people that have figured out how to do all kinds of physical stuff. Like, they've freed their body up to be able to do things that most people wouldn't even conceive of being able to do. And I've done some of that myself. But some of those most powerful men that are fearless with snowboards or skateboards or all that, you go face a powerful woman in a relationship, and they're going to project their undealt with wound onto that person, rather than be able to receive what's actually going on. And that's tragic, because we end up creating, when we run from those challenges, then we just manifest the same thing over and over, and we just keep saying, oh no, that person's fucked up, everyone's fucked up, there's nobody. And it's all you. It's always was you. Everyone that's in your life, and every feeling you're feeling, nobody makes you feel anything. You allow it's your boundaries or your lack of boundaries. And that's why the magical passes, I think part of them is that expansion, and then that contraction, being able to open and close the gap, right? And knowing, so these movements aren't just for, just to build dreaming energy. Like, these are powerful ways of taking care of your energetic vessel. And once they become natural, and you're not having to do a certain sequence, or you've saturated yourself in them enough, and they just start revealing, your body just knows intuitively how to take care of itself. And you may think, oh, I'm so tired, and I got it, oh my God, I don't have energy. And it's just all kind of stories, right? It's actually, I've stayed up for days and days and days, and you just end up switching into a totally different gear, and you use the magical passes, or you use dreaming or whatever to keep yourself just in the flow state. And I think a lot of people fear, they have a history where if they don't sleep, then they can't function, or if they don't eat, then they don't feel, all these things happen. And I get it. I'm not saying people should try to discipline or force themselves, but when the environment, when the opportunity comes to sort of reevaluate, wait, why am I doing this? Am I eating out of habit? Am I eating just because, it's when everyone else is? Like, there comes a point where you start being more creative about all of this stuff. And so Toltecs, they eat very little, but they eat often. Every hour of the day, they'll just eat very little. And by tapping that, it can really break you out of this kind of program routine of, that there's meals and all these different things, or just taking a break for a few days of eating altogether, and just allowing, there's some discomfort obviously that happens, but the less we react to that discomfort and able to just be with it, something really magical will happen. There's a shift, and it allows you then in the future to be able to do things that you wouldn't have thought you could do. So it can just be little steps toward getting to know, little ways to take ourselves out of autopilot and be in the manual driving, or actually shifting the gears ourselves instead of the kind of that typical way of acting. And that's why Don Juan would always fuck with Carlos. They'd be out in the wilderness and he would like say, "Oh, we got to go. It's time for lunch." And Carlos, "Okay, let's go." And he's like, and he's just looking at him like, "Dude, your habits are going to keep you, from ever really discovering yourself and how beautiful this realm is." And so and I'm not saying I've gotten past my stuff. I when I go out in the wilderness alone for a while, it's part of me wants to come home, like go back, like, like there's this resistance to the breakthrough that's about to happen. And sometimes I allow that resistance to play out, and I come back. But sometimes I find ways to free myself from that pull and just stay a little bit longer than that. And something usually will happen if you can move beyond the typical pattern.
Yeah. Well, maybe we've come to a natural end to the first part of our conversation there. Beyond the typical pattern. I love the fact that, we didn't say, well, your destiny is easy, or everyone's going to get there anyways, or if you just dream it, it's okay, and you can sit on your couch and take notes or say affirmations or certain meditations. We literally, in this conversation, listed a whole bunch of challenges we've each faced in our lives. We've shared some warrior stories and some typical stories of our own life. Said, this is how I've overcome, my challenges on my way to my destiny. And there is actually a process of challenge and fears and uncomfort and, and changing in locations or maybe relationships or jobs or, diets, all of the above. We've all had to face that at one time or another, and to go beyond, to access energy you didn't know was always there. And you've got to quite literally do something different to be different. Which is interesting. Not just think different. You actually have to be different to be different. It's easy to say, but once you start doing it, as you said, the monsters do come and the flyers do force you down. And they do say, don't recapitulate. There's always a reason. You don't have, oh, I'll have the chocolate. Oh, you don't have time to recapitulate. Oh, you got bills to pay. You shouldn't leave your job, or you'll be lonely. Stay in that relationship. All these crazy things. I'm sure we've all heard, during the days, DAZE, days of our lives. And that have left us in the stupor that we're now sharing how to get out of in this conversation. So thank you so much, Joel. I just want to say this has been beyond what I thought it was going to be. So that's amazing.
Awesome, Lorenzo. Yeah, I always enjoy talking with you, man, and appreciate you reaching out and seeing it. This 4-part thing feels really good. I'm glad we decided to do that, and look forward to further talks with you, man. Appreciate it.
Okay. Everyone, thank you so much for being here. If you have any intelligent questions, suggestions, recommendations, leave them below. I'll pass them to Joel, or you can pass them to me. We're delighted to carry on. If anybody has any suggestions for further topics as well, we'd be happy to hear them. And, we appreciate your time here with us.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks again, Joel. Cheers.
Lie to my heart. No one tells me where I should start. Freedom first is what I say.